One of the main reasons I started my channel was actually in response to Ari Spears. I saw in some interviews, like on Comedy Hype and Fox Soul, where he expressed his doubts about God's existence based on the existence of evil in general and the racial violence that African Americans experience due to white supremacy in particular. So I wanted to offer a response, or at least contribute to the atmosphere where honest seekers and investigators can process God's existence as well as the existence of evil. I am a believer. I have come to know that Jesus of Nazareth was a real person. He was executed by the Roman Empire in the first century, the fourth decade of the first century of the Common Era, and God raised him from the dead. I came across this video by Black Atheist Rants. I think he created the video in October of 2020, where he's reading Genesis chapter 1. Here's a brief excerpt from that video.
Genesis chapter 1 verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Pause. Why should I believe that? Can we prove that? Prove it to me.
The cosmos is our point of reference. Once we are describing the cosmos correctly, that description is said to be true. If the description is incorrect, that description is said to be false. If you keep getting things incorrect, the way of thinking about the issue is incorrect. That's where the revelation of biases and assumptions is borne out in the physical sciences. That is, discovering what describes the cosmos correctly. We have the tools available to us, the mathematical sciences. A math professor gave his Calculus 1 class an exam. In the next class, he gave back the graded tests. One of the students had a question about how one particular test question was graded. He was marked off quite a bit, even though he had the right answer. The professor responded, "Who cares if you get the right answer?" Here's what the professor meant. Mathematics does not necessarily concern itself with 1 plus 1 equals 2, but concerns itself with whether or not the sum of two integers is another integer. There is a difference between common sense and universal truth. Some things are only true for a small certain number of times that it's tried. That's why they say hindsight is 20/20, because common sense, intuition, and feelings are often wrong. And looking back, you can see what should have been done. The way the world works oftentimes is not open to common sense, but experiments, historical studies, probabilities, and inference are necessary to discover and correctly describe reality. The field of mathematics is what prepares the human mind for this challenge. The word mathematics comes from the Greek word mathanon, which simply means something learned. Mathematics is about learning. It disciplines the mind from roaming with incoherent thoughts. It teaches us how to think. What the professor meant was, it is the steps that you took that show how you thought about trying to solve the problem to arrive at the correct answer that are more important than the correct answer itself. This axiomatic approach is often referred to as pure mathematics. For example, algebra and analysis. While computational mathematics is often referred to as applied mathematics, like calculus, differential equations, and extending on to physics. Given the role that mathematics and physics plays in advancing our knowledge about the world, I want to unpack why an astrophysicist would write that God might have been discovered. I need to lay some foundations before I proceed in accomplishing that. This is actually my second attempt to respond to the Black Atheist Rants video about Genesis chapter 1. My first attempt, I took for granted some meanings of words that I thought everybody would agree upon, as well as some assumptions, and I glossed over a lot of details, and I shouldn't have done that. So this is actually a revised response to Black Atheist Rants. The Jastrow quote is not sufficient to prove God exists. It was meant to lend credence to the fact that Genesis chapter 1 corresponds to reality and can be understood to be as true. An astrophysicist is claiming that Genesis 1 comports with astronomical data. In other words, Genesis 1 describes reality the way it is. You have to know what reality is in order to evaluate whether or not something is corresponding to reality. And Robert Jastrow, as an astrophysicist, understood what the cosmos was like in terms of modern astronomy, and he was able to evaluate whether or not what was written in Genesis 1 corresponded to astronomical discoveries. And he was of the opinion that it was consistent between the two. I'm going to have to explain what is meant by infinity and what is meant by proof. Nothing actually reaches infinity. Infinity, from its definition, means not finite. It's boundless and has no beginning or no end. Remember from geometry that a line segment has terminal points, but a line extends forever in both directions. Likewise, an infinite sequence of temporal moments has no terminal point. But we have reached a terminal point in a sequence of temporal moments in the past, which is today. That's how we arrived at this particular moment right now. So the universe is not infinite, but finite. Like I said, this comes from the definition of what it means to be infinite. So it's not something that's been, quote unquote, scientifically proven, but it comes from logic and the definition. So we're getting to something that's metaphysical and philosophical. There's logical proof, what can be deduced from a series of true statements, and then there's experimental proof, what can be demonstrated from a set of initial conditions and a specific set of actions that produce an outcome.